We shall now be talking about the Kepler's laws of planetary motion. These are some of the most fascinating laws which we have here in physics, especially in the areas of planetary motion. So, studying about the Kepler's laws of planetary motion, I would just like to say a small story here, and that is before formulating these laws, it's actually these laws are based on a lot of data. And who took the data? The data were collected by this gentleman named Tycho Brahe. So Tycho Brahe was one of those rich persons who had a knack in astronomy. So he was not a professional scientist, he was actually a very rich businessman, but one of his hobbies, one of his interests was watching up the sky, looking up at the stars and the planets and taking the data meticulously, that which star appeared in which position of the sky during which season and so on, what was its brightness and so on. And it was from those data, but he never made any use of the data, he simply collected it. Like we know, there are a lot of people who simply buy a lot of clothes and gadgets but never know how to use them. So he was like one of that. And then Kepler, after some sort of deals and a lot of dealings and arguments and so on, managed to get hold of the data from Tycho Brahe, and using that data he came up with these three laws, the laws of planetary motion by Kepler. And what are those laws known as? They are known as the law of orbit, the law of areas, and the law of periods. What does each law say? Well, first of all, the law of orbit says that any satellite or any planet, in this case it was actually a planet, any planet in our solar system that's revolving around the sun, it revolves in such a way that the path is elliptical and the sun lies at one of the foci of the ellipse. So if you know this, it's well, but if you don't, well, an ellipse looks something like this, elliptical in shape, much like an egg, and it has got two focuses. This is focus F1, this is focus F2. The plural form is foci. So it has got these two focuses, and Kepler's laws of orbit said, well, when the Earth or any other planet in solar system revolves around the sun, it revolves in such a way that the sun is at one of the foci. So it is not exactly at the center of the orbit, or the path is not exactly circular. The second one was the law of areas. The law of areas said that if you imagine a line, the line joining, say the sun and the planet here, so I have a planet here, then the line joining the sun and the planet sweeps out equal areas in equal amounts of time. So if from point A to B a time of say 5 days has passed, and from C to D a time of 5 days has passed as well, then in this case we can see the distance between the planet and sun is much less, but here the distance is much greater. But the planet will adjust its speed in such a manner that the area which the planet covers while traveling from A to B within the 5 days will be exactly equal to this area here when it travels from C to D. So which basically means that when a planet is closer to the sun, it travels at a greater speed, so that the area is greater. When it's far away, the radius vector is greater. So even by covering a small distance on the circumference, it is making an amount of same area being covered. So planets while revolving around their sun go faster when they are nearer to the sun, and go slower when they are farther away from the sun. So which basically says that the orbital speed of the planets don't remain constant all the time. And finally we have the law of periods, which says that t square is proportional to r cube, which means that the time period, the time that it takes for a planet or for any satellite to revolve around its mother body, for the planets it's the sun, for the moons it is the planets, the square of that time period is proportional to this r cube, where r is the distance from the planet to the focus or the foci where the sun lies. These are the three laws of Kepler. So the first one, the law of orbits, it's a pretty simple one. Planets move in ellipses. Ellipses have two foci, sun lies in one of the foci. The second one, the law of areas. So what does the law of area say? So suppose this amount of area is dA. So what is the area dA? If I consider this dr to be very small, then this is almost a triangle and it has an area half times this one side r times this side, that is dr, half into base into height. That is almost what the area is. Then dA by dt, that is rate of change of area with time, is half r dr by dt. Now we know rate of change of position with time is velocity. So this is half r cross v. Well, I must say this is r multiplied with dr, r cross. So r cross v. Now what I do here is I divide and multiply by mass. So 1 by 2m r crossed with mv. So the masses I divide and multiply by it. Now you will study this, that the angular momentum, this is a symbol for angular momentum. Just like you know linear momentum is equal to mass times velocity, angular momentum is equal to the displacement vector crossed with linear momentum, which is r crossed with mv. So this is what we basically have here. This is the angular momentum. So we have 1 by 2mj, that is equal to dA by dt. Now when the planets are moving around the sun, their angular momentum remains conserved. It is one of the principles of conservation of angular momentum, and it is one of the most fundamental principles when it comes to studying the solar system. Anyway, so the angular momentum remains conserved, which means this entire thing j by 2m is a constant, which means dA by dt is constant. And what is dA by dt? dA by dt is called areal velocity. Areal velocity means the rate at which this area which is covered by the radius vector, the area that is covered by the radius vector, that is known as areal velocity. So if this is the orbit and we have the sun here and we have the planet here, so this is my radius vector r. So in a time dt, the radius vector moves from here to here, and this is a d amount dr. Then what is this vector? If this is r and this is dr, then the third side of the triangle by vector law will be r plus dr. So this side is r plus dr, and here this area that we have, this is dA. And Kepler's second law says rate of change of area with time, dA by dt, is a constant, or angular momentum is conserved. This is known as the law of areas. And finally we have what is known as the law of periods, which says that the square of the time period is directly proportional to the radius cube. Now just like before, we will use this formula that centripetal force mv square by r is the gravitational force gmm by r square. By cancelling the necessary terms, we get v square equal to gm by r. Now we know another formula that the velocity of a body is 2 pi times radius by the time period. This is the basic formula whenever a body is moving in a circular path. I substitute this value of v here, I get 4 pi square r square by t square equal to gm by r. So I make t square to one side and I get 4 pi square r cube by gm. If you look here, 4 pi square by gm, this is a constant. 4 pi square by g, there itself constants, and m is the mass of sun, that's constant for all the planets. So t square is equal to a constant times radius cube, or t square is proportional to radius cube. So just by using this one formula, we have done so many derivations in this chapter. It's a fascinating thing, just by writing down that gravitational force is equal to centripetal force. And it is using this formula we find out that the square of time period is proportional to radius cube. So that basically means, say we have got two planets. Planet 1 has a time period of 8 days, planet 2 has a time period of 24 days. And say it is given that the radius of the first planet is equal to say 120 kilometers for example, and you are asked to find out R2. So you don't even have to know the other factors. You can simply write T1 by T2 is equal to R1 by R2, 3, and I take the square root. So this is 8 by 24, that's 1 by 3 to the power 2 by 3 is equal to 120 kilometer by x that I am trying to find out. So just by 1 by 3 to the power 2 by 3 divided by 120 will give me the value of So this is how simply we can find out the radius of the planets just by knowing their time periods. This one is known as the law of periods. Fascinating chapter it is, this chapter on gravitation, but it will get even more fascinating when you start solving the numericals. What I try to do in these videos is tell you about the theories. Once you are well accustomed with the theory, I encourage you to go ahead and try the numericals, which you should find in the examples as well as exercises. And during that time you will face quite a bit of challenge, which is really very important in order to actually grasp the concepts. So go ahead and do it. And this chapter on gravitation, it's a really good one, so I suggest you don't be pressurized while studying, rather enjoy this process of studying and knowing more about how our planets move, one of the planets being the one in which we live.